Hello and welcome back to season 3 of the Let's Face It podcast. Today we're somewhere different, as you can see, somewhere a wee bit more professional, a wee bit cleaner. It smells a lot better than our office, Sean. And we're joined by a very, very special guest, which is Stephen Kelly, who is the CEO of Used Cars NI. And of course, Used Cars NI have came on board to support all of season 3, and it's something that we're so appreciative of. And we were chatting to Stephen there beforehand about having sponsors on board, and it's so important for us to be able to keep this thing going and keep the show on the road. And we know how much, like firsthand, myself and Sean know how much it's helping people every week with the feedback coming through messages and stuff like that. So now the support is greatly appreciated, Stephen, and I suppose we're here today to maybe just get a chat to you about maybe a wee bit about who you are and where you came from, a wee bit around your business background, and of course a bit about Used Cars NI, the work that Used Cars NI do, and the impact I suppose that you are actually making on the community with helping people like myself. But not only, like, there's loads of sports teams you are helping, there's loads of different drives and initiatives you are helping to along the way. So firstly, thanks very much. We're so grateful for your support, and it means a lot. But I'll start this podcast off the way I start all of them off, and it's just a wee bit of who you are, who you came from, and where you came from.
Okay, no problem. Well, Stephen Kelly, born and bred in Limavady. Mum and dad still live there. And I live in Dungannon, married to Julie, with 2 great lads, Sam and Archie, who keep me very busy as well as work. But yeah, grew up in Limavady, went to school there, primary school, went to secondary school in Korean. Studied in Newcastle, did politics.
Oh.
Funny enough, being from here, there was
plenty
in the background. What I quickly realised was conflict resolution skills and studying politics worked really well in the motor trade eventually. But I never wanted to be a politician. Quickly worked that bit out too. But yeah, always loved cars. Always liked the programme Minder. And didn't want to be Arthur Daly, but I wanted to be Terry McCann. And the only reason I wanted to be Terry McCann was he drove a Ford Capri.
Okay.
I love Ford Capris. And my mum actually tells the story, I think it was 1987, 88. I came running up the hall crying. I said, "What's wrong, Steve?" Ford have decided to stop making the Ford Capri. So I was distraught at this fact, and I think she realised then that eventually he will be into cars. So long story short, we're now working for Used Cars NI.
It's incredible too, like, because even growing up for me, there was always an element of like sports was a big part of my life, and there was always sort of that I'll be involved in it one way or another, and that's, I can even relate so much to in terms of, like, it's probably your childhood passion and now you're living it every day, but obviously it doesn't come around sometimes as easily as that. What was your journey then from politics? At what point was there a transition, sort of being like, okay, I don't want to be a politician, I want to get into business? Where was the sort of thought process behind that?
Well, actually, growing up too, I played a lot of cricket as well. Okay. Cricket was my sport of choice, and I would have played a lot actually with my dad too. So we used to have great fun on Sunday lunchtimes when we played the same team and realised how bad a shot I played the day before or how bad a shot he played the day before. But no, when I finished university, like many people, I didn't know what I wanted to do after the A levels, and so I really enjoyed politics. I was sort of inspired by a teacher at school, like a lot of people could be. And then went to Northumbria in Newcastle, loved Newcastle, great city. And then I came home and I worked in the car tax office in Korean for a year. And then there was a graduate programme for enterprise rent-a-car came up. They actually weren't in Ireland at the time, and actually moved to London. So lived in Earlsfield near Wimbledon for nearly 3 years and loved it. Great time there. And I actually then moved back with Enterprise and opened up some branches here. And then I realised that working for a big US multinational really took its time. You really worked long hours that was slightly different to here. So I then moved to another company that sold number plate machines. And that was good because it got me into I got to know all the dealers in the motor trade as well. And I worked for those guys for 4 years. And then I saw a Used Cars NI advert, and that was back in 2010. So the rest is history, as they should say.
Yeah, and it's like the world, I suppose, even today, back then, 2010, I was a child then. Really, I didn't really know what way, I suppose, the business would work, but I can have a fair idea in terms of like we're looking at there and laughing at the used cars NI magazines and stuff like that in terms of advertising. Now it's all like on the end on the end of our hand in our pockets, like on phones and stuff like that. How much different was it then, I suppose, coming into, you know, a platform like Used Cars NI in terms of selling cars? Was it hard to get off the ground? Was it
well, Cecil and Anthony started the business, still own the company. They had started about 2005-06. I nearly didn't get the job at all. Second interview, second question was, we're thinking of bringing out a magazine. Do you think it's a good idea? I didn't think it was a good idea, and I tore the idea to shreds. And then Anthony looked up at me with a wry smile to say, well, we are launching the magazine and it comes out next week. So I thought at that point, well, structure's a good arguments today. You know, there's a bit more interview technique and experience, but fair play. The guys were great. Cecil phoned me that night and said, look, everything that you put across today is internal debate that we've had, and we'd like you to come on board. And I sort of knew at that point that this company's different. You know, this company, even when you argue with them at your interview and you get the job, that they actually would listen to all points of view as well. So yeah, back then it was so different. I mean, the site, the day I started, I think we had 13,000 people on the platform looking for vehicles. Today we would have about approaching almost 50,000 a day. The stock volume was lower then, the volume of dealers that we had on the site was lower then, but it's changed a lot. You know, our expectations online has changed a lot. You know, back then, people when they were putting a car onto the site would do more work. You know, they would tick boxes. Now they expect everything done for them, which is fine and great, and that's what we work very hard to facilitate over the years as well. But you know, the customer journey's changing. You always have to remember that there's new 17-year-olds coming through every year. So we have a new audience every year who are starting to drive to sort of capture. And the way they communicate is completely different to the way we would. You know, back in the day when you were wanting to change your car, you'd jump in the car and you'd drive to 4 or 5 car dealers. Or you would go to where your dad went, or your mum went, or a friend went. Now it's so different, and people don't always want to phone people. They might just want to drop a WhatsApp in, or different slightly inquiry. So we need to be ahead of the curve and make sure that we facilitate all that. We're just putting buyer and seller together. That's what we do.
Which I suppose I actually know firsthand. I was, and I still do bits and pieces for RPM Motors up in Glenavion.
Oh, right, very good.
And I was looking after the sales in there for a couple of years whenever I get out of rehab. And Robert's been great for me, but we used. Yeah. Still do use Cars NI as our platform for selling, like, and it is just so easy because I'm an idiot, to be honest with you. So like uploading the photos, just dragging them across, putting in the reg, and like near enough everything else looks after itself. And I think that you just mentioned there are a couple of things which we'll get into, but you mentioned there, and I suppose it is maybe we're no experts in it, but a society issue in terms of, you know, young people now not wanting to maybe speak to each other, and we're like, because it's just not the done thing to do. Like, our communication is through a PlayStation or through different things, but you know, talking about, you actually have a service now where you can message the dealer. Like, how do you come up with ideas like that, in terms of, do you sit around and be like, right, okay, or like, how does that come about? Because it is such a simple tool, but not everyone, I suppose, would even come up with something like that.
You can make things as complicated as you want. Yeah. And I think online you can track everything. And I think the key thing is to know the world is full of data, and it's full of numbers, and it's full of noise. And sometimes you have to realise that what are the key information that we need to know, and how is the market slightly changing, and how are people changing the way that they want to communicate. The beauty, Northern Ireland's a brilliant country for the motor industry. The independent dealer really does really well here, because we have 650 dealers. I mean, in a country the size of Yorkshire, you know, I always think that there's more car dealers per head of population here than there is anywhere in Western Europe. And year on year it grows, and they thrive and they grow their businesses. But you'll find that I just think that people, you know, where years ago they would jump in the car, they would drive around, or they would lift the phone, you know, people are at different parts of the journey too. We always think of it like an 8-week cycle of thinking of changing my car to actually searching on the site to putting a lead in as well to following that up. So I mean, over the years we've added things like test drive booking and part exchange inquiry, because I might have a car to part exchange or maybe I don't. Everyone's circumstances are different as well, but we do our best to try and facilitate what the dealer needs, but essentially what the buyer. We have to wear two hats. We have to wear what you want when you browse the site, but also as a business when you're running it as a dealership, what their needs and requirements are too. So it's a balancing act, and information is key, and the internet's great, but I always feel that providing as much detail about the vehicle, you have a garage, I don't have a garage. I need to know the dimensions of the car, you don't.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but and always knowing what to change and what not to change is a key for us as well. You're always trying to progress, but we have a good team, brilliant team. We've grown it again. We'll be a head count of about 22 people come July. Constantly pushing the boundaries, internal debates. We have a development team that meets all the time. The guys are actually in Portugal at the minute at a conference, picking up new ideas as well. So it's you can't stand still. Yeah, if you stand still, you'll probably go the way print went. Yeah. You'll be replaced, and that's it.
You mentioned there are a couple of things, and even I'll take you back a tiny wee bit to the interview that you had with the magazine, and it's actually a fascinating and interesting story. Like, and you mentioned there this company's different because they were actually able to listen.
Yep.
And it's something that I've actually never talked to, and we haven't, to be honest, had that many business people. With Dominic Kearns who owns Fabris.
Okay.
And we touched on a couple of different things, but listening probably the biggest thing, not just in business but in life. And you mentioned there that it did feel different. How important do you think that listening to other people's points of views or opinions within this sort of boardroom how important is that? Because I think that even I can only relate to team sports, like when we're dealing with sometimes a manager and maybe it's his way or the highway, and there's a lot of egos maybe involved, and a lot of sort of if it's not my decision, then it's never going to work. So how important is that sort of sitting back and listening to 6 or 7 or whatever many people sit around this table and say, do you know what, I'll take it on board and
you have to, because I've worked right the way through the business. I worked in the sales and support office. I didn't start as CEO of these cars, and I worked through sales management role for the dealer accounts, worked into business development, head of operations, and then, Cecil brought me aside 2.5 years ago and said, look, he wanted to be chairman, he wanted me to move up to CEO. And I've worked with a lot of my colleagues, through the business, and we've all prospered as well. Your strength is your people. And that you could have the best product, you could have the killer app, you could have all the traffic that you wanted, but if you don't invest in your people, you really don't have anything, don't you? And always taking every opinion on board and thinking about it is important. One of our best adverts we ever did was a take on Liam Neeson in the Taken sort of speech, and our student Dermot, he's now a core part of the business, came up with the idea, and that transpired into being an advert. Anthony loves the fact that he was Mr. Liam Neeson. He also loves.
They don't look like I'm on.
No, they don't. He also loves the fact that we got a cease and desist letter from Liam Neeson's sort of production company, which he then framed as well. So that's just a simple example of. On our business at the moment, a lot of the people have worked through being a student in the company, and then, and this is maybe the only place that they've worked, but you have to work a culture. When I played in cricket teams and captain teams, you made the decisions on the pitch, but you would take conference from how are we going to get this guy out, what's his weakness, right? How are we going to set a field? You're the fast bowler, I'm not the fast bowler, but I'm going to decide when you bowl, when you don't bowl. So utilise everything that you have to your disposal. Because people feel grateful and they'll grow alongside you as well. Yeah, there's nothing to being shut out.
Yeah.
You block off creativity, maybe.
And I agree with you. You mentioned their culture.
Mm-hmm.
What does a culture look like in used cars and like what is your ideal sort of culture environment? Or you also mentioned there are a couple of things within cricket, and I can relate so much in terms of even the GAA and different sports that I've been involved in, how that then transfers into what I do on a daily basis. Like I was talking to Jamie Conlon last week. He's Michael Conlon's one of the boxers manager, and he was saying about being in the box and from a young lad, maybe even developing, it wasn't just what happened in the ring. So maybe for me it's not what happens on a Sunday afternoon, but everything else that comes with it. The people skills, being able to sit with you now and having a conversation, job interviews, being able to be sociable, because we're surrounded within team environments and of people from that have all different personalities essentially. How much, sort of two questions in that, but how much does sport played a part in your working life in terms of that?
A lot. I mean, playing a sport that you love, what I liked about cricket was it's a very individual team sport. So what I mean by that is, if you're a batsman and you went out and you had a good day and you scored some runs, great. But you could still be in the losing side, or you could go out and not get a good score but still win. You could contribute on the field as well. And I think from a young age, being a part of a team, and it doesn't always have to be about sport, but I think for young people it's a great outlet and it's the most natural one. If you're playing a musical instrument or doing something outside of of home, of school, away from PlayStation, the Xbox, great. It does help. It builds your confidence, and that's what life's about too. It's not all about exams. It's not all about achieving that score, because once you go out into the big bad world, you have to communicate with people. And I always find that, when I was playing representative stuff or playing a club, I always loved playing club cricket because you were playing with people 2, 3, 4, 10 years older than you. And you learn so much on and off the pitch. But you're right, it wasn't just the day of the game, it was travelling to the match, it was the practice sessions, and you looked up to people. We used to have overseas professionals who would come and play at the clubs, and you play against them, and it would be great. You'd be, this guy played test cricket, now he's playing against me. Okay, he's a bit older now, but still, it was. It's all character building in the end, and then when you bring that into a business, you want to try and get your culture right. Especially what we've been through. COVID and the likes have been really tough on people, and they've been really tough home lives, but in businesses as well. And if you were leading into COVID, not working well as a team, it wasn't really going to be for you. You were really going to struggle, and you have to work at it. It's not that we have had the sweet spot now, and we have to relax. We constantly try and change the way we meet up and engage with each other as well. Yeah,
and how, just mentioning there, COVID, obviously it was a difficult time for everybody, in all walks of life, but especially, as you said, within business. You have a team of 22, did you say? Trying to keep, not keep 22 people happy, and I think that sounds, but trying to have everyone still bought into what we're trying to do, maybe as a business. How challenging was that as you as the top of the ladder in terms of directing and sort of?
Well, we called it quite early, and I can remember bringing our youngest lad Archie to football practice, and Cecil phoning me and saying, I don't like this COVID, I don't like what I'm hearing in China. And I was standing in a room with loads of people walking past me, and I thought, and he was for the soundboard should be closed, and I'm going, okay. And I thought about it, and I said, well, tell you what we'll do, we'll phone everybody and just say, look, grab your laptops, grab your phones. If you get a call on Monday, just stay at home. Now, it was easier for us in a sense because, we're not in a production line, we're not making anything essentially, we're a service provider. But yeah, it was difficult at the start. We didn't have to furlough that many people, but we did. And there's a cohort of us that kept working at that time. And it was probably I needed to work, just that's the way I am, and that's what we did. But we got through it, and we were a strong, independent company, that could do that. We had to support our clients and our customers, our dealers, because at that time, we didn't know what when we went into real lockdown. We decided to make sure that all the cars that were available were still on the site, and then we sort of took the decision that we'll pick up what we've lost in the future. We just want to make sure that if we're all at home, we can still email about that dream Audi or BMW. When we're allowed to, we'll go and see it, but we just want to make sure that those vehicles were online, and that's what we worked towards at that time.
Even on the other side of it, in terms of like the staff and the well-being of staff, that is something we're obviously very passionate about, like well-being and surrounding ourselves with good people and like-minded people and people who want to see you do well, etc. and stuff. And you mentioned there are a couple of things when we've been chatting about the culture that you're trying to create, the the environment, having them 22 people on board with ultimately trying to succeed or move the company forward. Like how much were, without getting into details of course, like, but were staff impacted mentally off the back of COVID? Because you're coming into the office every day, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and then all of a sudden it's Monday morning. Friday afternoon maybe take your laptops and phones, and then Monday morning it's like stay at home, and then you're nearly 2 years. Difficultly.
At that time we were all affected. There's no getting away from that. We've worked very hard since that. We've come up with a people and culture team that meet every month, and we try to figure out how we're going to keep engaged with each other. We do a lot of meetups.
So is this something that's changed?
Yeah, we never had it before, and so as I say, I sit on it, Cecil, Chairman, we've got 4 other members of the team, and we sort of organise, so it's like a social committee, but also if there's any issues that are cropping up within the business, or if people are feeling isolated in any way, any issues at all, that's a forum once a month that we meet. The meetups were very important too. We've done all sorts. We used to meet up in 2s, and then we met up in 3s, and now we're currently meet up in 4s. So the idea is one person organises it. You meet for tea, coffee, lunch, brunch, a walk, whatever it is, and the idea is not to talk about work. The idea is just to get to know each other. We've actually hired a lot of people in the last year, and it was really important when you're integrating new people that they get to know each other as well. And you're coming from all over the province. We've got people in Uri, down Patrick, up in Derry, I'm in Dungannon. So we're all over. So therefore, making the effort was very important to us too. We like going to the darts, we like the ice hockey. All of it's really important for us to keep engaged, because when you have the tough times, you need to be a good unit as well, because that'll help you progress through, because look, business is tough, business is like life, and you'll always have challenges, and if you try and create a team ethic, then hopefully you can sort of tackle those head on, as one.
Then that's so refreshing even to hear, because I think that, and I talked about it, I was up in Crea Concrete last week, and we were chatting about this, and say I go to do an interview with you and you give me a job, I don't know, what was I in, head of sales, say, and so that is your head of sales for used cars NI, and that's automatically what I'm labelled as, so that's my title, like you're the CEO of used cars, but you're not just the CEO of used cars NI, there's a whole lot more to you, you know what I mean? I just found out there now, do you like cricket, do you like going to the darts, do you like doing different things, and you're only going to find them things out whenever you sort of detach from the workplace and do them things, like you just said, like going for the walks and the teas and the coffees or whatever, or a pint on a Friday after work, or stuff like that brings people together, and all of a sudden you make, like, we have conversation, you say, do you know what, I'm actually getting a wee bit tight at home, and I say, I'm getting tight too, and then all of a sudden there's a connection there, Stephen, of me and you being able to become friends, not just work colleagues, so there's always people behind these titles, I suppose, that we're given, people within job places.
Absolutely. I mean, we did this last year. We went to Ross Trevor with all the families, so all the company and all the kids, and actually kids, because we're all sort of roughly around the same age, and we're all going through this thing called life at the same time, as well. So my kids are friendly with our kids in the company too, so that's refreshing. This year we're actually planning 2 nights, So there's like sports day for and the adults. There'll be a
Fancy yourself at the egg and spoon.
Probably a huge, well, there'll be a bit of that going on, and and yeah. So I mean, you're constantly thinking of, you spend a lot of time with people at work. What you'll find is you end up spending more time with people at work than maybe your friends that you grew up with, or new acquaintances or neighbours and stuff. So, would it not be easier to get on with the people you work with? But make it go slightly easier as well for that. So yeah, no, it's as a CEO, a lot of your time is spent in people. And it's not always spelt on the bottom line. It's always spent. You're trying to get your best, result. But your best result sometimes is inspiring people. It's not about laying down the letter of the law. This year we will hit these numbers, because that doesn't inspire anyone. And it wouldn't inspire anyone in a Gaelic pitch or on a cricket ground. No. If you'd say, right, we're winning today, and that's it. At all costs. At all costs. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. I
totally agree with you, and that's so refreshing. Like I'm so that only makes me happy hearing that, because obviously you're the flagship company for what you do in Northern Ireland. Like there's no, you are like, and you setting that example can only be good. And I hope that there's other businesses maybe listening that maybe employ 2, 3 or 4 people, and they don't know who their employees really are. They just know that they're good in the building site, they're good at doing X, Y or Z, and they don't really know what makes them tick. And also, even a wee bit deeper than that, maybe that person's coming in on a Tuesday morning and they're maybe all over the place and they can't think properly, and you're maybe giving them a grill and you're not really looking and going, do you know what's actually going on?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you want to have a conversation? What's the crack or whatever? But Stephen, for you to be that person, for you to set that example, for you to look after the people, for you to be the man essentially, you need to look after you.
Yeah.
Because even there's very often I'm working with people now and people who are in recovery, but at the end of the day I'm in recovery.
Yes.
I may be a wee bit further down the line than what they are, but I need to put things in place to maybe go to an AA meeting, or maybe I do a hot yoga every Wednesday morning and have a wee vulnerability group where we share and open up with each other, still go to bits and pieces of counselling. So that enables me to then be like, for the next person walking through the door, I can give you my best, I can give you all of my energy. How do you even focus on maybe, and the best way I can describe it is I need to fill up my own cup before I can fill up other people's cups. How do you essentially fill up your own cup and so you're able to give that energy?
Well, we got a lockdown dog called Max. He's a Cavachon and he just rules our house now. So me and Max are often seen walking the roads around where I'm from and Dungannon, and people go, oh, there he is again. What they don't realise is I'm getting myself on the headspace, and I think getting out there and reorganising yourself slightly as well to make sure to give yourself time. It's very easy. When I first came into this role, it's very easy. Accept that meeting, accept this. There's a third party company wants to speak to you. It's fantastic, and it's very easy to fall into a trap of being a busy fool.
Yeah.
And I think you just having that little bit of structure where you can say, no, Mondays and Fridays are thinking time. First thing in the morning, doing the school run grounds you, making sure that the family's right, and everything's going well there. That's very important to me. But taking time for yourself, because if you don't take time, work's always going to be there. The challenge you have today will be the challenges there tomorrow. But you need to make sure you're in the right frame of mind and a balanced and good place to take that on as well. So it's easy saying it. Sometimes it's hard putting it into place. But he needs plenty of exercise, and that always helps me.
He holds you accountable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's important. Maybe finding that wee bit of downtime and just being alone, maybe, and not alone, but you're with the dog, obviously, but being out in the fresh air and being with your thoughts, and maybe you can just switch off from the world, because I can only imagine, whenever I just first came in, I asked you, were you busy? And you says, but it's not just your typical 9 to 5, because we're running a 24-hour platform, essentially, and I've found myself sitting at maybe 2 a.m, going, Jesus, I'll look and see if there's another car, because there's nothing, there's just, if you can't sleep or whatever, out there, and if that platform then shuts down, you're probably the man that people bring, or is that
that's
right?
ultimate stress. Yes, you're right, and I mean, you just sometimes the numbers are, when you realise how many people are on the site, you realise how many people, vehicles are, something you can distill it down to numbers, but there are real life stories behind the scenes. It's somebody's first car, it's somebody's growing their family, or
life savings, or
it's somebody's midlife crisis. And the likes, and so it's very easy to get caught up in, well, how many private sales were lifted yesterday, or how many inquiries did we actually generate, or sometimes you take stock and sit back and go, well, we've made somebody's day today because they've bought their first vehicle. And that, I think we just have to, we're in a society now where everybody wants information instantly. Everybody has a very limited attention span as well, which doesn't really help sometimes. But yeah, no, just realising that it's always there. I always have it that I can sit and look at it if I want, but I'm just trying it. A bit of a digital detox as well is important for me too, because it's not really healthy if you're sitting, looking at it and looking at numbers at all times of the day as well. So yeah, for me anyway, getting a structure, how I start my day, what I look at, when I look at it as well is important.
So important. I agree with you. And excuse me, used cars then I suppose do a lot, and obviously with me being one of them, like given that support to be able to do things like this, but obviously have people coming in and sharing their life experiences, and obviously Sean here, it genuinely does mean a lot, and I'm so grateful for your help and support. But like, I'm not the only person, there's lots of teams, there's lots of different societies that used cars have their hand in terms of helping and sort of reaching out to communities. What is your sort of reasoning behind that, and how much does that actually mean to you as a company in terms of?
I think, to be honest, giving back's so much better than spending. Yeah. Once a company reaches a level of success and is in a position to help. I mean, we sort of started off with sponsorship. So we always thought about youth teams. We always thought about we'll sponsor the jersey for this sport. I mean, currently my old cricket team we sponsor. We've got basketball, we've got hockey, we've got GAA, we've got football, we've got mini rugby. And apologies if I missed somebody out there, but we try to cover all bases, and that's great, And then I suppose we started with that, and then we thought, well, there's a lot more happening and that we should be helping out with, and we currently sponsor Reach Mentoring, which sort of the Lurgan and Dungannon and Armagh areas where it's pre and post primary school. The schools all come together, and there's counsellors there for the kids if they're having issues with their mental health. We've been supporting that charity for a number of years. Hope for Life NI, we sponsored the awards this year. It was a fantastic event, really enjoyed it. It was inspiring seeing young people that were awarded for going above and beyond, sort of helping loved ones and what have you. So yeah, giving back's important, and speaking up, people are going through tough times. It affects every family, and at some stage in their life, I think we're only scratching the surface, to be honest, after COVID. People have just bunkered back down, got into the way of going, and they've sort of stored a lot of what they went through and what we all went through. So I think, it's very important that we never lose sight of giving back, and as I say, what you guys are doing is fantastic, raising awareness. You talked earlier about seeing these people that maybe achieved in a sporting environment, but they go through tough times too. Yeah. And I think that's inspiring for everyone who's ever played sport or not played sport. Yeah. That everybody's vulnerable. Yeah. You can't get away from it. And but as a company, it certainly will be something that we do, and we'd like to probably do even more in the future as well. Yeah, and
it's so refreshing to hear. You had a term there that giving's better than spending, was it? And that is it is refreshing. And I suppose for them charities and all, like, it genuinely wouldn't be possible without you. Like, and them, even them kids teams that just started off with, being involved and helping coach, kids teams within my club and stuff like that. That, set of jerseys or whatever it is, but that just means so much to them kids, like, because they're getting a new jersey. The jersey, they've probably been wearing the same one for the last 10 years and haven't been able to get the fan through. Or cricket the same. Like, so having that wee impact and making people feel a bit better about themselves, and of course, you know, it must make you feel proud. Whenever I was driving down the Lisburn Road last week, it was behind a Ulster bus. Yeah. And it was the used cars across the back of it, you know. And I know that's maybe a bit of advertising, but even like seeing your brand, Used Cars NI's brand around sort of Northern Ireland, in all walks of life, not just cricket, you know, not just within the GAA, because there is, I suppose, companies who do that because they're maybe brought up in that sort of environment, but just spreading your wings and helping everyone in all communities, like that's really, really powerful. Yeah. And and again, like we just wanna thank you so much. But moving on just a bit in terms of even yourself and the direction, we were talking there before we started recording. You had to do something interesting there, about your 10-year sort of vision or 10-year plan. Where I suppose what's next for you? What keeps you sort of ticking in terms of like not standing still? You said there at the start of the chat there about, you know, about competitors, about different you know, businesses, and the day you stand still is essentially, I suppose, the day you're beat. Like what how do you prepare for the future, and what does the future look like for you?
I mean, the car industry is going to change, no doubt. You know, electrification of vehicles is here, and it's going to grow even more so. I mean, and I welcome that too. At the end of the day, that's a fuel type. You know, if we're converting from petrol to diesel to electric, great.
Being a car man, what's your outlook on it?
Infrastructure worries me, and I'll be honest. You know, there's range anxiety, there's the cost implications of electric vehicles, and I just think, yes, it's been done for the right reason, but I think people should also bear in mind that how green is the electricity used to power the electric car? You know, if we're not having a renewable source of that electricity, then if oil and gas is still powering our electric stations, well then is it a falsehood to actually push us all into electric cars as well? We're going to have so many more charge points, which is great. Who's going to pay for it? Road fund licenses at the moment obviously help with our roads and what have you, so if we're all going electric, how are we going to do that? A car has a 15-year life, really. So if petrol and diesel vehicles are going to cease to be produced in 2030, then, you know, a vehicle bought in 2029 conceivably could still be on the road for a long time. Cars are cleaner now than they were, admittedly. When we were growing up, and you would, you know, if you were walking...
Hold on, don't be putting me in the same age. You said that a couple of times.
But you would... I do feel like, we're living in a time of great change. There's no doubt, and the car industry will experience that. But people still need to get from A to B, and if it's an electric car, great. And we have 500 plus electric cars in the site today, and that figure has grown over the years, and I do welcome it. Will I get an electric car? Yeah, eventually. But I suppose, you know, we all work in sort of cycles. You know, how long? 2, 3, 4 years when we keep your vehicle. But yeah, change is coming, and change is coming in terms of how people want to communicate. We have to make sure that we're abreast of that. And what we do here in Northern Ireland, we could essentially replicate anywhere else in the world. So, I mean, the team that we've built here, there's no reason why a used cars now couldn't be elsewhere in the world. So that's my vision. You know, we're already looking at different markets at the moment. And, you know, but essentially we put buyer and seller together, and we complete journeys A to B. And, you know, we do it in as efficient a way as possible, and try and make the market work, you know, in that. So cars can move between trade to buyer back to trade as well. So yeah, it's going to be a really exciting sort of 10 years. We've built a team. We actually built a programming team very recently here in Belfast. The site was originally our company we worked with were based in Russia, and obviously all the events that happened between Russia and Ukraine, unfortunately we had to move from that contract, so that put us in a situation where we had to build our own team, and it was a blessing in disguise. Because it's given us all the opportunities now to move forward and hopefully look at different, countries. Why should a business here not flourish elsewhere?
No, absolutely, and you have that power now, I suppose, with having your own programs or whatever it is, like, and that's class. What about, even just to finish off, we have a lot of young people in our audience, like, and similar types. I'll have to put you out. I'll have to get back at you here. People at a similar age to myself.
That's yourself, not me. Okay.
Who are maybe even thinking of, going into business or going into, maybe just starting their careers essentially in their working lives. Would you have any advice for those people in terms of having that balance, and maybe some of the things that we just talked about there? Not being, as you said there, you need a bit of digital, what was the word in terms of taking yourself, I call it emotional detachment in my work, you called it digital
digital detox.
A digital detox. Just like a lot of things like that, because I can only, even in my experiences in the last couple of years from I got out of even rehab, essentially it was like, right, I need to be so good at my career now, I need to focus and everything. And then I had these like bursts of like 6 months, and then it was like blow up because I was like putting all my energy. And now like I can firmly say that like I just touched on throughout the chat, like I have boundaries in place, like you do that you're going to Wednesday and you meet up with different people, and like you have a separation. Would you have any advice, I suppose, for young people going into work or starting their careers?
Look, your network and your reputation, you build a reputation, you can lose it instantly. Be true to yourself. Anything that you do, think about how it impacts others, and a good business will cherish young people, because that's the thought process and the ideas that need to come in. Yes, young people are online and they're digitally savvy. That's a good thing. But everything's in moderation there as well. So my advice would be, just be true to yourself. Build up your network, and seek out mentors. When I first actually took the role of CEO of Used Cars, and I spoke to Anthony and I said, look, get me a mentor, Anthony. It's a lonely place sitting as CEO. And you got a great guy called Dennis Murphy, and Dennis has been fantastic for me. I can meet up on a regular basis, and I think the mentor gets a lot out of it as well. So it could be a friend, it could be a colleague, it could be something maybe somebody who's been in the company or the industry, or somebody attached to your family. Pick their brain, because they'll get a lot back actually from helping you as well for that. So just be yourself, and also just take what you can get to in terms of education as well. And think very carefully about what you're actually studying. Is that really what you want to do? Think about the costs. Think about, where does that degree send me? Do I need to do a degree? Do I need to do an apprenticeship as well? Because you'll have a lot more opportunities now, thankfully, in Northern Ireland than, I certainly had, maybe younger people like you had.
Glad we got that sorted at the end.
As well. So.
No, it's so true. And I think that, I talk about it most weeks on the podcast about, like, we think because of maybe the way, the system maybe in the world, and maybe this is what way you need to be. You need to maybe get your A levels and go to university and go straight into a job, and then you have a girl, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and then you live happily ever after. But I think the world's starting to change a wee bit, where you can actually step out and be like, I don't need to make that step into university. I can maybe go a different avenue and go down to, as you say, like a tech route, or go to get an apprenticeship. But on the other side, what you just said there about your network, like the people who you surround yourself with, so important, and having that sort of guide or that sort of higher power in a mentor, it's something that I've benefited so much within the last year, like in terms of just bouncing things off people and stuff like that. So I'm with you, and I'm glad, and it's refreshing that you said that too. Like, but I would just like to thank you. I really enjoyed that chat, and I would like to thank you again for your support in this season. Like, to be able to get great guests on every week, and to be able to get you on to produce them and stuff like that with the office and all. It genuinely, I mean, from the bottom of my heart, it's helped us so much, and we really appreciate it. And we wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Good man.
Cheers. Thank you. And a huge thanks again to Used Cars NI for their continued support. If you're looking to buy a car or sell a car, www.usedcarsni for all your car needs. It's very easy to do, as we just discussed there throughout the chat. If you're looking to sell your car, just log on, upload a few photos, drag them across, put the reg in, and it's pretty much done. No, it's perfect. And of course, if there's any dealers out there, I know again, first-hand experience, how great the service is for us. So yeah, a huge thanks to Used Cars NI for your continued support, and I will see you all next week. Cheers.